Good. Well, thank you very much for coming today to this panel discussion on the theme of counter-terrorism and humanitarian action. And thank you too to those of you who are following this online. When we move on later to comments and questions, you, the online audience, are very much encouraged to submit questions via the online chat room. Now, just a few procedural and housekeeping issues I've been asked to draw your attention to. First of all, if the fire alarm sounds, this obviously for those of you here in the building, if the fire alarm sounds, which will be a continuous ringing bell, everybody should make their way out through the doors by the ODI's reception, downstairs, using the stairs, not the lift, and out of the double glass doors onto Westminster Bridge Road. The ladies' toilets can be found just outside this conference room, and the gentlemen's toilets down the corridor to the right and round the corner. Please remember to switch your mobile phones back on when you leave. Thank you. And if you've brought drink or cold food in with you, that's fine, but please dispose of them in the rubbish bins that are apparently provided. And if later on you're using the microphone, it can apparently pick up sound in any direction, but don't hold it at the very bottom because that muffles the sound, making it difficult for our online audience to hear. I'm Mike Wooldridge. I'm one of the BBC's World Affairs correspondents. Though not here, I should make it clear, in any sense speaking on behalf of the BBC, nor indeed speaking for the Overseas Development Institute. This discussion coincides with the launch today of the report by the Humanitarian Policy Group of the ODI on counterterrorism and humanitarian action and all the challenges that there are involved in that at the moment. On our panel are two of the authors of the report, and that's Sarah Pantuliano, the head of the Humanitarian Policy Group, and also Kate McIntosh, next to me, co-author of the report and an independent consultant. And also we have Jahangir Malik here, so to bring later on the perspective of individual NGOs, humanitarian agencies on this and their experience. We have Jahangir Malik, the UK Director of Islamic Relief, and Mona Sadek, the Deputy Head of Mission in this country from the International Committee of the Red Cross. The issues, it seems to me from my own reporting experience over the years, principally in Africa and South Asia, used to be mainly about suspicions on some people's part that aid would fall into the hands of rebels, internal opposition groups, rather than anything that might have been identified then as groups associated with terrorism. And as many of you here will know much better than me, that of course in its day remains today with those internal opposition groups, often a very contentious, controversial issue. It's led to quite a lot of maverick actions on the part of NGOs to get around it. I remember once in particular being invited by somebody some of you may remember called Cole Dodge of Oxfam and UNICEF fame, a real veteran worker in the field, who at that time was in Uganda. And I got, without any explanation at all, a kind of almost a summons to Entebbe Airport to join him on an extremely small plane that it turned out that he was flying from, I didn't know he had a license, from Entebbe across the lines, as it were, at that time in the country to the west, to the Kasese area. That was in the time of a government led by one Tito Okello in Uganda. And at that time, Yoweri Museveni and his rebel army were operating in the West. And what he was wanting to do was try to achieve a breakthrough in opening up a humanitarian corridor for vaccines and medical supplies and so on. And I guess in part, not only do you think it would make a good story for me, but maybe I was also there as part of his own plan for trying to make this work. To this day, I have no idea how much permission he had, if any, for the actual operation. But you'll all know of many other examples of that kind, of course, ingenuity that people have often had to use to get around that. Now, it seems to me, and this is what today's report, and I think this discussion will bear out, that the situation changed significantly after the 9/11 attacks in the United States, and the report indeed examines the impact of counter-terrorism measures on humanitarian action, especially after 9/11. We'll be hearing the thinking behind the report's main conclusion, as I understand it, that counter-terrorism measures, both laws and sanctions and so on, have significantly hampered humanitarian work globally. And we'll also, as I say, hear the view of agencies who are involved in trying to deliver that humanitarian work. I personally will be interested in hearing answers to a number of questions. To what extent NGOs, other humanitarian organisations, have the freedom actually to operate outside the policies of the donors anyway, especially if they're heavily dependent on government funding. Seems to me you can do your best to perfect your mandates, particularly if you're an international NGO, but what if a government simply tells you what you can and can't do, despite all the pressure that you seek to apply? What is humanitarian space today? Doesn't it differ hugely from country to country? Isn't that just going to continue to be the reality? And perhaps more specifically, but to show the topicality of all of these issues and of this report, what impact is yesterday's incursion by Kenyan forces into Somalia, which has been confirmed today by the Kenyan government? What impact is that going to have on the already very limited humanitarian space there? Kenya, of course, saying that it's gone in to chase Al-Shabaab, particularly to chase them away from the border area. So let's turn to our first speaker, who is going to be Kate McIntosh, an independent consultant, as I say, co-author of the policy brief, and indeed has come especially from Cambodia for us today. Kate.
Thank you very much.
I should just say, sorry, just one thing, which I definitely need to note, that this event is on the record for our speakers and for also all of you asking questions. It is a public discussion. Sorry.